This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Flex Network. I'm your host tonight, Flex Shane. You can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. It is a very special episode. It is our 100th episode. And so for you, we brought the entire Flex team on. We got to my top left, the Snowman. How you doing, Snow?
Oh, it is beautiful. It's a beautiful, happy 100th episode, everybody.
Love it. Flex Mike. Mike, how you doing, brother? Mike, you there?
Good.
Hello, Mike.
Rocking and rolling here.
Love it.
Yes.
And of
Can you hear me?
course, we know him as the Godfather, Alan Seslowski. Brother, how you doing, man?
I'm dying to ask Snowman how he got that name, Snowman.
Well, that is because my last name is actually Snow. So just
And the last we checked, you're a man.
Last week, the beard says so, anyways.
yeah, the Mountain Man beard says so.
I like it. The Snowman. All right.
Hmm.
Mike, what's
I
your
love it.
nickname? Do they have a nickname for you?
It's self-appointed Flex Mike, I guess.
how about growing up? What are they- Growing up, did they call you?
Oh,
anything?
I was like freakishly skinny when I was a kid, like between the ages of like maybe 10 to 13, and I did BMX, like racing on a bike on a dirt track, and my nickname was Beanpole. I don't know why they call me that because I
love
was so
that.
skinny, but whatever.
How tall are you, Mike? You said you're like 6'2", 6'3"?
No, I am 6 foot.
Okay, 6 foot.
I'm
All right,
6'1" on a good day,
on a good day.
but 6 foot most days.
Love it. Love it. So, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about our other two compadres, Flex Matt, who, I don't know, he comes and goes. He does his cockamamie videos that get hundreds of views, and, you know, he gives the people what they want. So Flex Matt is off gallivanting for Independence Day weekend. And, of course, Cowboy Cam, he unfortunately couldn't be here tonight either. But, respect to those boys, they've been around since the beginning as well. And yeah, I mean, I guess I should say that I'm the only lone Canadian on this show. So happy Independence Day, my
Get 'em,
American
get 'em.
compadres.
Get him.
That's right. So
oh, Canada.
yes,
That's right.
I wanted. Okay, listen. So it's a 100th episode. We do some different content for you guys. For those who only tune into one of our shows, obviously we've got the one that Al and I host, and that is the Fantasy Football Podcast. We have the one that Mike and Cowboy Cam host. It's kind of your weekly NFL update. It's general NFL talk, and of course, the Snowman hosts our wrestling podcast, which I was gonna wear my Bret Hart shirt today, Snow, but I had to represent. I had to represent the
Oh,
Flex
yeah.
shirt.
Yeah,
You know?
it's a 100th episode. I mean, either one
Yeah.
could have worked. I mean, it's 100. I mean, I
Yeah.
got Jericho. I'm wearing
There you
Jericho
go.
today.
I don't know how old school you go with the wrestling, Snowman, but obviously everyone growing up it has an affinity for wrestling. I mean, it's a rite
Oh,
of
yeah.
passage as a boy. I mean, I just remember though, my favorite guy of all time was Hillbilly Jim for some reason. That was just like my guy.
Oh, that.
Which
yeah,
was the
yeah,
deal
There
with,
we
like,
go.
the, with like, the
One of the
bands,
best
or like they used to
things.
like
Yeah,
who was
yeah,
that
he had a big beard, and him and Uncle Elmer used to come into
Oh,
the
God.
ring, and there was a little guy, Cousin Junior or something like that. But Hillbilly Jim was my guy.
Look
I had
at
the wrestling-
Al over here.
I'm just kidding. I'm just,
Look
like I
Al
said,
throwing it back.
those were my
Oh, yeah.
guys. Those were my guys. I still have the wrestling figures in my room.
I, of course, growing up in Calgary, living in Calgary, that's the Hart family, right? They pretty much ran this town in terms of wrestling. And my brother used to do like the actual like Greco wrestling growing up.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks because he could just kick my ass. It was the worst. Granted, he's the older brother, so I guess that's kind of his right. But yeah, my mom, her best friend growing up, was like their family was super close with the Harts. So got to meet the Harts a few times, and it's pretty cool family, and obviously a lot of success. That whole Shawn Michael thing from back in the day is just it's a travesty. It's a travesty.
The
we're talking Montreal screw.
The Montreal
job
screw
now.
job. That's the one. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
But boys, okay. So we've been doing this I'm calling it the 100th episode because this are technically our 100th podcast that we're going to be releasing on the podcast feed. But I want to say we've probably done at least north of 150, maybe 200 episodes. When you look at all the ones we didn't put on the podcast feed, obviously every single week during the season, we were doing 2 shows a week at least, oftentimes 3 with our waiver wire shows, our flex finders on Friday nights, and then the start sit shows on Sunday mornings.
Shitty
with roster
sit shows, right?
That's right. But
it's only a shit show if someone didn't take your advice.
That's right, exactly.
Or they forgot to follow your advice.
Well, the funny thing is, Alan and I always joke about like when we get these start sit questions with like a bunch of low end bench players, it's like roll the dice. I don't know. I'm going to tell you what I think is right, but honestly,
well, it's an interesting psychology. I mean, listen, it doesn't matter if you've been playing fantasy football for 20 years or you're a casual player. We all agonize over those start sits that literally nobody has the answer to. So I think what happens is the reason why that show became, at least it became popular, our start sit show, is because people want someone else to tell them what to do, so they don't actually have to take the blame themselves when they ultimately pick the wrong player.
It's kind of resigning that responsibility.
Yeah, or if they decide, that guy's just gonna have a shitty game. It's like he was rated high, and it's like,
nobody knows.
Shouldn't have put him.
Yeah. So okay. So I also want to discuss a little bit, since we're going to have hopefully a few different crowds that are tuning into the show today. Snow, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about the wrestling show, how often you're on, what you like to talk about, and just promote it a little bit.
Yeah, basically Thursdays. I try to get on Thursdays throughout the year, literally every week. We'll talk about what's going on in the world of wrestling. If for those who don't really, follow too deeply, watch the shows. Basically, we'll talk what's going on TV, on AEW, WWE, NXT, and I'll even throw in some New Japan every now and then. Again, and we just basically talk what's going on in the world of wrestling every Thursday.
I love that. Do you ever get into like things like UFC or any sort of those other sort of like similar type sports?
No, I mean I haven't yet gotten to UFC though. With everything going on in this virus pandemic, it's a lot easier now to see. Oh, hey, what's going on in UFC? Because they're coming out with stuff every so often now. Every
2 weeks. In Cez's neighborhood there in Jacksonville, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, Jacksonville down here where coronavirus doesn't exist until now. It's the epicenter.
That's right.
Hey, I was the original up here in Washington. I was the original.
Washington.
Yeah, I'm up here in the state of Wash. But yeah, I mean, especially now with Fight Island coming into the fold now for UFC.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? And Mike, are you a wrestling fan too? Or are you just kind of a casual?
Yeah. So we. When Flex, Matt, and myself started the whole Flex Network, one of our ideas was, hey, let's target those guys who may or may not be interested in what we're bringing to the table. We can target those wrestling fans. We can bring a fresh take. They could hop on our live streams and comment, and we can have a conversation about it. So like we actually started. I grew up in Seattle with Matt and with Snow. We all went to high school together. And so Snow, if the guys that knew Snow in high school knew he was a diehard wrestling fan. He was always wearing like the wrestling t-shirts, the wrestling hats, all that stuff. He's going to these shows. He's sitting in the first 5 rows. I don't know how he does it. He must have a money machine at his house that is just constantly printing money. Because I've priced those tickets in the first couple rows. It's literally impossible. But anyway,
what I found is in life,
we knew that
in life, when you have a passion, you'll find a way to get the money to pursue that passion. It's just a fact of life. Some people,
absolutely. You're like, I'm not eating fast food. I'm not doing any of that stuff because I got to save my money for wrestling tickets.
Yep, that's it. That's Snow's crack cocaine right there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
But yeah, so the wrestling show originally started with myself and with Flex Matt. I mean, we were doing every show at that point. We were talking fantasy football, we were talking regular football, we were talking UFC, anything that we thought anyone would want to listen to, we were talking about it.
Well,
And
actually,
so as things went on, we pulled in Snow and we started having more conversations about other things. And we were like, oh, well, maybe we should bring some people in who can specialize in certain areas. And so that's exactly what we did. But Snow, go ahead. What were you about to say?
well, actually, if you guys remember, you and Flex Matt actually had a show previous to this network, Fourth and Goal.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
So
guys-
what happened was Matt was on another podcast that wasn't sports related. They were just talking about anything. And
Was that the Serial podcast, or was that this podcast in the early days?
that was no. That was prior to everything. That was before the
this was-
Flex Network
this
ever
was
existed.
prior to Flex.
Yeah, because I hadn't bought the house that I'm in right now. I bought in 2017, and I was still renting a duplex at the time. And my wife was just about to have our first kid, and so this is a little while back, and so money was a little bit scarce. So you know how before you have your first kid, you're a little bit terrified. You don't actually know what's going to cost and how you're going to do this, how much you're going to sleep, any of that type of stuff. So we were kind of just casually doing it. And then once we realized, oh, okay, we got this, we can get on the Twitter game and we can get on all this different stuff. Then we're going to go full speed ahead. And that's exactly what we did. And so wouldn't look back and even go back to that place. But yeah, we had a podcast called Fourth and Goal. We weren't uploading to anything. If you remember, before we hopped on StreamYard, we were on a thing called Shane, I know you know what it's called.
It was Google
Google
Groups or
Hangouts, I
Google
believe.
Hangouts. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we were on there and we did that. And then when Google Hangouts basically came out and said, hey, we're not going to exist anymore, we panicked. And I was like, I literally went to Google and I typed in Google Hangouts is gone. What now? ? And one of the first things that popped up was StreamYard. And I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God I found this. And I sent it to Matt and he was all over it. He's like,
And
dude,
you know
this
what?
is so awesome. This is
If
everything we need.
nothing existed, we were going to invent it, right? I mean, if there was an emptiness in the market, everyone likes to stream. I mean, especially you saw it during the quarantine that people that you thought would never be streaming in your life, you're like, oh my God, that guy's talking about his truth online, like whatever that is. It was amazing to see, how many, people played the guitar or talked about this or something like that. It was really interesting over the last 4 months.
It was actually
we go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, so I don't know if you guys have seen this this new Netflix show. It's called History 101, and it's just 20-minute bites about certain major things. And I just recently watched the one on plastics, and it's pretty astounding. Just how far we've come in 75 years. That when the Spanish flu, for example, broke out in the early 1900s. There's just no communication, right? I mean, it was crazy. That would be a crazy ass time. It's middle of World War I. What was it? 1/3 of the world's population was killed from it, or something like that. You fast forward now to the coronavirus, and it's a similar pandemic in that it's a global pandemic, but we're more connected than ever now. I mean, we talk so often. I mean, we're all on literally different parts of this continent, and yet here we are on a Friday evening talking just whatever the hell we want to talk about. It's a crazy time, man.
Right.
It's a great time to be alive, man, with technology. Great time to be alive.
What's up, Clip? Here we go. Another OG, Clipboard Jesus. Hey, listen.
Yeah, Clipboard G's. Yeah.
This man, we've been playing a Dynasty League with Clip and StreamYard, or not StreamYard, excuse me, Sleeper, which we love the Sleeper app. It's probably one of the best things, if not the best fantasy football app right now. They just came out with a new functionality where it's kind of like a dynamic trading type environment. So you can put guys on the trade block. You can put up players that you're interested in. You can like other players on other players' teams and stuff. Freaking Clipboard over here. He's like the liquidation world of our group. He's putting the nasty, dirty, round 25 players up on the block. So shout out to you, Clip. Shout out to you. But boys, you want to?
First of all, let's
Go ahead, Mike.
let's talk about one thing real quick.
Yes.
Clipboard Jesus, it's about time for this dude to get a profile picture for his YouTube account. Am I wrong? He's had a YouTube for way too long. He's constantly dropping in here, commenting on our stuff. Clipboard Jesus, it's time, brother. I see you on Twitter. I know you know how to add a profile picture to things. It's time to get one on the YouTube, okay?
It's such an easy, easy name to find a picture for too, right? There's a lot of different directions you can go there.
Well, doesn't he raise llamas? Doesn't he have like a llama farm or something like that?
There you go.
Down in
Now
Arizona.
That's great.
He's opened
There it
up
is.
potentially even further now.
There you go.
There
so
we
you,
go.
You boys want to talk a little football?
Sure.
You gonna
Yeah,
do it?
let's do it.
Okay. So I'm going to preface this by saying that Snowman and Flex Mike are not fantasy football nerds like Al and I are. So I'm just going to throw that out there. But I wanted to have a fun conversation. So it's going to be related to ADPs. But really, I mean, you guys know football. You watch football. I just want to know if you're owning a team and you're drafting a team, who are these guys would you want on that team? They're similar positions and they're similar ADPs. They're all pretty much going at the same position. So, Al, I'm going to get the people started off with you because I know that you're pretty good. So we're going to start right off at the top. We're going to talk some round one early ADP players, all running backs. We've talked about this countless times on our show. You cannot win the draft in round one, but you can certainly lose it. Okay. So if you've got a choice between all these players, and I think I know the answer, but humor me here.
Mhm.
All guys similar ADPs. Are you drafting? And this is based off of Best Ball 10's last 2 weeks, really from June 15th. So are you going to be drafting Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, or I'll even throw in Kenyon Drake there. So you got Cook, who potential holdout risk, Derrick Henry, who doesn't really catch the ball, so maybe limited upside in PPR leagues. Joe Mixon, who we've seen flashes of it, but can he put it together for an entire season? Miles Sanders, who, good Lord, he's pretty much skyrocketing up the ADP list. I've seen him go as early as 1.6 in some drafts. And then, of course, the guy that you've been high on for pretty much since February, Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, by the way, I think it's refreshing sometimes to have a little bit more casual fantasy football players on the podcast with us because we get so in the weeds sometimes that I think that that guys that come in and just know football, like Snowman, like Flex Mike, they add like a sanity check. Like I said,
Yes.
we almost are victims of getting so bored of the players that we talk about that we try to be kooky and different. So it'll be interesting to get their takes on some of this stuff too. But I mean, yeah, in the first round, all those guys that you mentioned all have their warts, and you did a great job of outlining the good and the bad. I mean, Dalvin Cook seems to have the highest upside, but but if what we've learned, remember about 5 years.
Sorry to interrupt you. We got a special guest.
Sure.
We got a special guest. Who's coming in. Oh no! The perfect music.
Look at Snowman got a boner over there.
Oh my God! Perfect timing, Sully. What's going on, brother?
What's up, guys?
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. brother.
Everybody gained weight during the pandemic. You lost weight.
Hey, I'm stressed out. I got 2 little kids over here, so I'm trying to work full time and take care of them too. So
No, you look like
And-
you're in good shape, Sully.
appreciate.
You know what he
that. Thank
does? He walks on the treadmill while reading up on fantasy football. This man, just Mike and Snowman, just so you guys know, this man is our 2-time champion in our league where actually all of us met 2 times in a row. The thing is that, I respect the man, but this guy's got the first championship. So, you are in special company right now with the 2 of us. But Sully,
So
catch you
that
up
league,
here.
does that league have Flex Matt in it?
that's how we all met, man. That's how all of us met. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, I bet that makes
Yeah.
Matt sick to his stomach that Sully is back-to-back champ over here.
Why do you
He
think I
probably
had to have him on
grinds
the
his
show?
gears in the
You know
worst
him
way.
too. You know Matt too well. You know Matt too well.
Yeah.
Well, what I find funny right now is that he has the Raw Tag Team title over his shoulder. He may have the Raw Tag Team
does
title,
indeed.
but I raised him the WWE World title right here.
My local Walmart only had the tag team belt, so
That's cool.
So Sully, thanks for joining us, brother. We just started talking a little fantasy football, and Al was just commenting on how, we tend to get ourselves into the weeds with fantasy football, and sometimes it's nice to take a step back. Snowman and Flex Mike, they know football, but they're not like totally football nerd or fantasy football nerds like us. So we were discussing in your first round, similar ADPs, if you're taking guys like Delvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon or Miles Sanders or Kenyon Drake, because really you can only choose one of those guys now at ADP. And Al, why don't you finish with what you were saying, and then I'm going to flip it over to Sully to see what the champ wants to do.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, I was just saying that there's warts on all those guys. Dalvin Cook, I saw Mike raise his hand in victory because he obviously agreed that Dalvin Cook has the highest upside. But what we learned a couple of years ago is that, like, when you heard somebody had a holdout threat, like, we're like, it'll work itself out. And then Le'Veon Bell happened in 2018 where he was getting drafted in the first or second round and then didn't show up for work. And then we saw Melvin Gordon miss 7 games last year. So I think people are a little more weary of the holdout threat this year. They take it a little bit more seriously. So for that reason alone, I'm going to go with one of more of the safer options. And out of those, I prefer Mixon. I prefer Miles Sanders. And obviously Kenyon Drake would be my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Mike, what do you think of those guys? Do you want to repeat the names or?
No, I'm good. I think in the grand scheme of things, I know the holdout situation is a little bit complicated and you don't actually know what's going to happen. A lot of guys threaten to hold out and then they report the night before the first day of training camp because they don't want to be a distraction to their team. But we did see Le'Veon Bell go through it and Melvin Gordon go through it. So you could understand there. But one guy that and I know this is a very unpopular opinion, but I had Miles Sanders on my team last year and I love him. But at the same time, the other guy in Philly, every time Miles Sanders is in the game, he gets a handoff and he takes it 2 yards, gets tackled by like 4 dudes. And then Bart Scott or whatever not Bart Scott.
Boston
what's the guy's
Scott.
name?
Boston Scott.
Boston
Bart Scott was the old
Bart Scott
DB.
was a linebacker.
Yeah, linebacker, yeah.
Right. Good one, too.
Yeah. So Boston Scott comes in the game, right? And he gets a handoff or like a swing pass or something, and he takes it 40 yards for a touchdown. And you're like, to me, as a Miles Sanders owner, I'm freaking out because I'm like, dude, Miles Sanders has all the athletic ability in the world. Why is he not in that position to do that? He's the rookie. He's, you spent the high draft capital on him, whatever. And so he was just very frustrating for me last year. There were a few games where I was very happy I had him. But if I didn't take Dalvin Cook because of the sheer rushing numbers, I would probably take Derrick Henry with the hopes of him catching some passes. But I mean, we saw
I
last
hate
year.
to interrupt you. We got one more.
Here's the interruption.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Godfather is here.
Whoa.
Man.
Right on time, Matt, as usual. Right on time.
This entire show by having Sully from Houston here. Are you kidding me?
Oh, there he is. There he is.
The best part is Sully's
Hey,
now front and
Matt,
center.
At least
I'm at work. I love all of you guys. Congratulations to everybody making it to 100 episodes. I just had to stop in real quick to say I thank everybody for all the support. And the one thing that's always stayed true to me is I remember when we had 300 followers and Seslowski said by this time next year we'd have triple the amount of followers, and we've almost hit quadruple the amount of followers. And not thanks to Sully from Houston. So get this guy off the airwaves. Are tuning
Hey,
out.
I'm going to take you from 1,000 to 10,000. So be nice to me.
Let's do
He's gonna
it.
scale us up,
I love you
10x
guys.
us.
I'm off for a 2-day excursion. Don't know what kind of shenanigans I'll get myself into, but I love you guys, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, see you, brother. That was probably the most respectable I've ever seen Matt ever.
Was that a pre-recorded bit or was that live?
It's hard to say.
I think
that was
might have been
pre-recorded.
live. At least, but it was more like pre-recorded just because of how he didn't look like his cartoon that I have originally had on my banner back behind me when I first started.
Agreed.
That's hilarious. Okay, we're gonna move on to another question. So this one's gonna be for you, okay, brother?
Yep.
So we got a couple of running backs that play on the same team. Their ADPs have pretty much converged right now, and At the 8-9 turn, Sully, you're on the clock and you can choose only one of these two players. Are you taking Ronald Jones or are you taking Keyshawn Vaughn? Ronald Jones has an ADP of 80. Keyshawn Vaughn has 81. What say you, sir?
Without hesitation, I'm going to take Ronald Jones.
Ooh! Without hesitation. Please explain.
And the reason is I didn't own Ronald Jones last year on any teams, but I do know he made a powerful impact for the Bucs late on in the season. So I've seen him. He's proven. This is Keyshawn Vaughn guy. I've heard good things about him. Right, he's a rookie, I believe, but it's just not proven. So at 80 or 81, I mean, why not take the proven commodity instead of the unknown? Ronald Jones is still a young player, maybe his third or fourth year. I believe he went to USC, probably a 5-star recruit, stud athlete. Really, I think he put some weight on. I remember he got bigger. Alex Dunlap from Roster Watch is always big on Ronald Jones. So I would take Ronald Jones.
Best shape of his life, right? That's that season.
You know what just gets me happy though about a guy like Ronald Jones? Like I'm not a Ronald Jones guy. I would go Vaughn there. But I was like Al knows I've been high on Vaughn all off season, so I'm probably just I don't know the what do they call it? The ruby glasses. I'm wearing them right now. But the thing I love about Ronald Jones is an analyst came out just yesterday, I think, and she tweeted about how the classic remember Ronald Jones, and he came back on Twitter and called her out and said, I can't believe somebody who's never strapped on the pads can even criticize, shake my head. And I respect that, man. Call out these fantasy analysts. I love it.
But
I haven't seen much of Vaughn, but with Brady on the Bucs, could Vaughn be used in the James White role a little bit?
Yeah, so he's a pass catcher. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but he caught, I want to say, around 25, 26 balls last year. Where Vaughn is I think, a step ahead of Ronald Jones is simply the fact that he was known for his pass blocking when he was in college, whereas Ronald Jones
get you on the field.
Yeah, which will get you on the field, and Ronald Jones is notoriously a bad blocker. But the thing is, I mean, to Al's point, even though he's being a little bit facetious, players can get better, right? I mean, when you go and now this is going to be his third year in the league, he can get better. So, I mean, maybe it's just I'm rookie fever here, but I would probably go Vaughn. What's interesting is that Keyshawn Vaughn has been going higher than Ronald Jones pretty much all off season. It's only in the last couple weeks that their ADPs have really started to converge. So I found that interesting.
I think that we all know. I mean, I know Mike's a Cowboys fan and Snowman is a Seahawks fan, right? Sully, who's your team?
The Bears.
Bears team, right?
Negative. Negative, sir. Negative, sir. Negative, sir.
Shane likes the Patriots. I'm a Jets guy, but you know what it is that no matter what happens this year, it's just not going to be like any other year. Reality football, fantasy football. I mean, from everything from the obvious that key players are probably going to get coronavirus to now they're saying that there's going to be no preseason. Imagine if you're a rookie and you're walking into not only no offseason or limited offseason program, but you're walking into no preseason. I mean, to me, that is it's okay, we're going to take this guy who used to fly little helicopters and put him in an F-15 jet and fly him over Iraq and just let him go in and see how it works. So, so Mike, you're a Seattle fan. I called you a Cowboy fan.
No, you're thinking Cowboy.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I know
Cowboy.
Cowboy.
I know
First
Cowboy
of all,
Cam,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
the Seahawks.
I live here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live here amongst the amongst
the devouts.
I don't know. I don't even know how to describe them. But they think
Cowboy
they're winning
fate.
the Super Bowl every year. It's insane.
Yeah.
Sully knows he's in Houston. He's still in Texas. Cowboy fans think they're winning the Super Bowl every single year, regardless of if they went 8-8 or 7-9 the year before with Jason Garrett. They still think that every year their roster is a Super Bowl roster. It's a very frustrating conversation.
I remember going out in my 20s. I always thought I was the handsomest guy in the bar, but little did I know. But don't you, Shane, I think that really plays into what you were talking about before with Keyshawn Vaughn. It's no matter how optimistic you are on a rookie this year, I think you have to scale it back 25% because it's just, I don't care if you're going to be, if you have the future Barry Sanders out there at running back, if you're just the first month of the season is going to be a total adjustment period for any player that has no preseason, and especially if you've never played in the NFL anymore. So I'm going to tend to agree with Sully that give me every veteran versus the rookie, especially in season-long leagues.
I got a question for you then, because this is kind of off the show sheet here, but a guy that I just picked up in like round 18, literally round 18 of my best ball, was Carlos Hyde. So Carlos Hyde right now, obviously he's a Seattle Seahawk, and with just a general uncertainty right now, like Rashad Penny, he's out, probably going to be at least for 6 weeks. Chris Carson is there, but he's been injury prone. What do you, okay, Mike, tell me, what am I missing about Carlos Hyde? Like, why am I getting this guy in round 18 of this draft?
I think people are looking at him and they see his age. You see a guy who spent a good number of years in San Francisco. You saw a guy who was in Houston, was kind of splitting some carries for a little bit, but I mean, last year he was a 1,000-yard back. And so I don't care in what way that you get there. If you get to 1,000 yards, the fact of the matter is 1,000 yards for a running back is the benchmark. Once you hit that spot, you're considered one of the better backs in the league. And in a guy of that age who is still getting 1,000 yards, he's productive. There's no other way to describe it. And so when I don't understand why he's falling off that much and being drafted that late, but I would say that when you look at the backfield that the Seahawks have, you have Rashad Penny, who tore an ACL late in the season, will be on the PUP list to start the season. You see a guy like Chris Carson, who hurt his hip late in the season and had to have surgery and had surgery and seems to be fine, but will probably be a few weeks before he's back to his normal self. And then you know, the Seahawks drafted a guy named DJ Dallas out of the University of Miami, and so there's plenty of opportunity for a guy like Carlos Hyde to jump in there and take over immediately to start the season, and then could possibly find himself into a situation where he's splitting carries. But his stock should be high, in my opinion. I'm not saying like first round 18 round type high, but
round 18 in best ball is essentially undrafted in typical leagues. I just feel like you could do a hell of a lot.
In my opinion, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I could even see Seattle using him in like the LeGarrette Blount type role. You know, within the 5 high, he's a big guy, 230, I think.
229.
Yeah, Carson, I mean, I'm not really sure he's in the goal line, but I think that could be outside the box thing for them to use.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
I mean, you saw it last year, right? Did you see it last year when they signed Marshawn Lynch? And Marshawn Lynch, they know they know that he can run inside the 5 anytime except for the Super Bowl when they should have handed him the ball. But they know that he can run inside the 5. You saw it multiple times when they signed Marshawn Lynch late in the season. He scored some touchdowns after being hit multiple times. So I don't see a problem with Carlos Hyde being in that package solely, like you were saying.
I don't know what Mickey Mouse
run and get those touchdowns.
I don't know what Mickey Mouse leagues that Shane is playing in, but I just did a draft not too long ago. I'm like, watch it so bad. He's cracks me up. But Carlos Hyde just went in the 11th round of that Beat Chris List league that I just did. So when people
that's sharp though. That's sharp.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's a higher stakes entry draft. Like you said, it's players, that have stake in the game. So still 11th round for all the reasons that Mike said and that Sully said. Could he be that hammer on the goal line? 11th round even feels late. It feels like he should be going in like the single digit rounds. But yeah, I mean, it looks like that the general market is catching up. And it looks like that Seattle's going to have a really good running back for a change that is 1,000-yard rusher.
His ADP for best ball 10s and rolling last 2 weeks is 177.
Yeah, again, it's that I'm not arguing the ADP, but again, it just the league I did, it was people actually had some real coin in the game there, and I was just anecdotally looking at a draft of 1, which is not a significant sample size at all. But he went.
No, but it's a great example. I mean, look, this is like these are $10, $20, $35 best balls. You were in like a $350 league.
Yeah,
so these sharp players know.
Well, it's because they have money doesn't make them sharp.
That's true.
Look at Sully.
Sully, I got a question for you. Who is going to be the Bears starting quarterback? truthfully, who do you think is going to start? Is it going to be Foles
That's a good
or is it
question.
going to be Trubisky?
I think it's going to have with the lack of training camp and things like that, and lack of preseason. I think it's going to be Foles.
Foles.
Because
Ooh.
Trubisky's already taken a step back, right? So he has to prove himself and outplay Foles in the preseason or in training camp. And I just don't think there's enough time and just the pandemic and how that all plays in. I think Foles, even though I'm not sure that's the right answer, I'd love to see Trubisky use his ground game. And I'm still in on this Trubisky, but this is the last year, just so you know. But I think it's going to be Foles.
Remember 2 years ago, everybody was excited about the Bears, and 2 years ago they did really well. This year, let's call it what it was. It was a disappointment, but I want to say that like right now, really it's a 2 wide receiver show, right? It's of course Allen Robinson and the Golden Son Anthony Miller. Allen Robinson is the 9th wide receiver drafted right now, which is pretty impressive. I love Allen Robinson. I know Al's super high on him.
Yeah,
Snowman.
Yes.
Do you have a take on Allen Robinson, or is that
No, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
I'm just sitting back here listening.
Sully?
I like Allen Robinson. I don't know why the Bears haven't extended him yet, to be quite honest. So I'm looking for that every day. But I like Allen Robinson. When you're ready, I'd like to bring up a ADP point on Tyreek Hill.
Do it.
All right, so I saw a Twitter post. I'm going to give the credit here from at FF Undefeated. I'm not sure if anybody has followed him, but he did a post on Tyreek Hill, sample size of the last 43 games. And based off Tyreek Hill being the wide receiver 2, meaning top 24 wide receiver, in those 43 games, he was the wide receiver 2 21 times or better. So it was basically 50%. It was 48.8. In 2019, 5 out of 12 games, he was the wide receiver 2. In 2018, 8 out of 16 games. 2017, 8 out of 15 games. The point being,
So you're saying
With
he
his-
finished as a top 24 wide receiver?
Um,
Or he's finished
and-
as the number 2 wide receiver?
well, they're considering wide receiver 2 as a top 24 receiver.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it.
Sorry if I didn't explain it. So
Yep.
in 43 games, half of the time. So the question is, I just looked at ADP is anywhere from middle of the first round to middle of the second round. Is the ADP worth that much of a high boom bust risk?
In my opinion, I'm not touching him in the first round.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? I've had this. It's interesting that you bring this up because I had this discussion with someone the other day, and I just said he's Will Fuller with slightly less injuries, and you can get Will Fuller in the 7th round. And when you draft a player like Tyreek Hill, you're drafting a guy that can win you the week or just be marginal. And when Tyreek Hill was like going in the 3rd round a couple years ago, that's exactly what you want. You want a highly volatile player. Doesn't matter what level of fantasy football you're on. But in the first 2 rounds, Shane just hit on it before. You want those rock solid guys. You don't really want volatility. Now, wide receivers are volatile by nature, and that's why people are gravitating towards running backs in general. But I think that Tyreek Hill, like you just, for all the information that you just provided, represents volatility even for a wide receiver. So, I mean, it sounds like this group right here is basically fade unless it comes at a better value.
Well, I got a question. Like, would you be drafting Julio Jones or Tyreek Hill first? For me, it's a no-brainer. I would take Julio over Tyreek.
Julio.
There you go.
I think the reason that people love Tyreek Hill is because he can put up those 35, 40-point weeks. Especially tethered to a guy like Patrick Mahomes. But
you want a piece of that. You want a piece of that Chiefs offense. I mean, who doesn't want to watch? The Chiefs are always in prime time. You see Patrick Mahomes flinging around. It's exciting. You're down by like 17 points. It's Sunday night. The Chiefs are on, and you got Tyreek Hill going. I mean, there's nothing better. That's why we play fantasy football, for enjoyment, right? And there's nothing more enjoyable than that. It's less enjoyable to have a player that's just on the Browns or I'm just making it up anecdotally, or like to have some sort of secondary wide receiver. Right. There you go. You want to be excited when you watch the games, and there's no one more exciting in fantasy football probably than Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs offense.
Okay, so I got a question for you, Snowman. You can hopefully answer this question for me.
Oh, he can.
Okay, so right now,
Hope I can.
let's just simplify it. If you were starting a team today and it was just a one season team, so for one season you want to have the best wide receiver on your team, are you taking DK Metcalf or are you taking Tyler Lockett? You can have one wide receiver. Who is it?
T-Lock.
Say the correct answer, Snow.
T-Lock. You gotta take the T-Lock
Tyler
right
Lockett.
there.
Yeah, Mike.
It's
Mike, who are you
just make
taking?
sure.
Lockett as well.
I'm taking I'm taking DK, and the reason I take DK, that's why I was like on his case about say the correct answer, because DK has had the neck and all that stuff, but like you're talking about a guy last year who was a couple of drops and a couple of maybe coaching miscues away from being 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie in the NFL. Elite speed, elite, just physical abilities as far as
he's a
like him
freak.
being strong and him being
Yep.
like, you're not going to be able to press him at the line of scrimmage. He's like bigger than most linebackers. And so, you get into a situation where it's like, well, Lockett has torn his ACL. He's had multiple injuries over the years. So if we're talking about for one season,
Let me just say,
I think
context of the
Lockett,
team. Context of the team. So 2020 season, team as is, who are you taking? Like for 2020,
I'm still taking
yeah?
DK. I'm taking DK still, because I think Lockett is kind of morphing into this slot receiver role a little bit, where he'll get some targets and stuff like that. Probably more targets. He'll have more receptions by the time the season ends. But I think DK Metcalf will have more touchdowns with still a comparable amount of targets and good numbers, because I think that Russell Wilson trusts him. DK Metcalf has an ability to want to learn and be better as the weeks go on, and he really takes it personally if he fumbles or if he drops a pass or any of those types of things. And so that's one of the reasons why I would take him.
I think that's fair. Sully, who would you take?
I would take DK Metcalf, just for the sole reasons. I'm not saying he's Calvin Johnson, but just for the Calvin Johnson pedigree, that's kind of what I saw. I mean, I was impressed last year, at the beginning of the season. I was like, "There's no way I'm taking DK Metcalf." Right? Well, had him on a team as a free agent. I want to cut him, and then I just saw what he did. Right? He just impressed me week after week. So I'm definitely, even though Lockett is great, I want the size, and he has the speed. I'd take that.
I love it. Al, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'm with the Snowman on this one. I like Tyler Lockett, man. I think he's he's the most underrated fantasy wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, imagine he actually got peppered with targets. If he got 9, 10, 11, 12 targets a game, I think he'd be amongst the top 5 for fantasy. The problem is, he gets that Deshaun Jackson treatment sometimes where he only gets 2 or 3 targets. Fortunately, he makes the most of them, including usually a score here and there. So I still think Tyler Lockett's in the prime of his career. It's but I can't make a good argument that DK Metcalf isn't the future of the league. But right now, 2020, I'm with Snowman and lock it in, baby. Hey guys, I'm gonna bounce here. I got to roll, but good hanging with you guys. I love it. And can we do this again soon? We shouldn't wait till the next one, the 200th. We should do it again.
Oh
Agreed.
yeah.
Okay.
Sully, good seeing you too, brother.
Take care, man. Be
All right,
safe.
boys. Later.
I see Al. All right, boys, we're gonna wrap it up pretty quickly here, but it was a lot of fun just talking through it. So just to recap, Sully, another reason I wanted to have you on the show was because you were our first official guest on the show. This was way back in the day. I was using my old crappy computer. It barely worked. My screen barely worked. I was using like headphone mics. It was kind of crazy. So I just wanted to, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, we appreciate the support you've given us. I don't know if you guys knew, but Sully is our official talent scout and guest scout. So we're looking forward to that. And it's been a lot of fun. So Snowman, where do the people find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me, chilling on the Flex Network at the FlexNet FlexNet PW It's the 100th. I still gotta do that.
There we go.
At FlexNet _PW Elite for all of your wrestling content here for the Flex Network.
And that's every Thursday night, correct? Every Thursday night.
Thursday night, we go live and talk what's been going on in the world of wrestling.
Awesome. Mike, how do the people find you?
Well, you can find me personally at FlexMike11. I'm kind of an overseer with everything. You know, you can find me on the Flex Network, FlexNet_PW Elite. You can find me there. You can find me at my personal handle there at FlexMike11. You can also find me at Flex Network 1 on Twitter. I'm in all those places. We're doing a lot of things. My football show is getting ready to jump back off here in the next week or two. So we'll be having our shows on probably Wednesday nights again. And we talk a little fantasy, not too much, but we really talk about the landscape of the NFL and what that's going to look like. We talk contracts, we talk free agents, I don't know if you guys knew this, there's still quite a bunch of free agents out there in the world that are looking to get signed. You know, you got your Everson Griffins and Clownies and a lot of defensive linemen. You got some receivers, some DBs, things of that nature that could really help some teams get over the top. So we'll be talking all those things as the season gets ready to start and training camp starts to roll around. So we'll see what that looks like.
That is awesome.
And then you also make some picks of the week for games.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Once
We do once the season's here, we do. I'm of course undefeated. No one has ever beat me in any week because let's just face it, Snow. I know more about football than you. I know more about football than Cowboy Cam, and sometimes the truth hurts. It's just the way it is. But we go game by game and we pick, and each week, for last season anyway, I came out on top each week. Some closer weeks or whatever, but we go game by game and we pick the winners, we pick the losers, and we try and pick a couple of players that we think are going to have big weeks. And guess what? My player that I pick every single week is Chris Godwin. So deal with it.
There you go. Sully, where do the good people find you, my friend?
I'm on Twitter at Sully from H-Town. You can find me in the Banana Hammock group chat. You can find me winning fantasy championships, hopefully on the Flex Network more. You guys give me some time. We'll see.
Absolutely. Hey, do you have a message for our commish, Mike, in the BHB League?
Doesn't even he's not even worth my breath, to be honest. So that's my message to him.
Not you, Mike. Another Mike.
I hope he saw my. I hope he heard the intro. I used I do have a shout out to IDP Nature Boy that I used his own music on my intro. So that's that's his message to him. I hope he saw it.
Woo! You took his music and it is now yours. I love that. All right, everybody. So of course you can follow me on Twitter at the Flex Network 1. We are going to continue pumping out the content for you. The fantasy season is here. It is the Independence Day weekend. It is the official/unofficial launch of the fantasy football season. We're doing weekly shows. Of course, we're amping up the frequency. We have Wednesdays is going to be Flex Mike. Thursdays is going to be the Snowman. We're going to be doing start-sit shows. I'm not going to get that right.
Start and sit
shows. Last year we did it with Roster. I know. I'm just going to start saying it. We did it with Roster Watch, and we're with discussing with them to do it once again this year. So crossing our fingers that that's going to happen again. Of course, we're going to have the Friday Night Flex Finder show. So it's pretty much just nonstop content. So thank you, everybody. 100 episodes came real quick, and I'm sure the next 100 is also going to come quick. So with that, for Flex Matt, for Cowboy Cam, for the Snowman, for Flex Mike, and for Sully from Houston, we are the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah.